Good evening. Welcome to the May 11th
Yes.
Town Center and Library Committee meeting. We have a pretty full agenda, actually.
Yep.
And let me remember what it is. I think the first thing on our agenda is to talk about the meetings that we had on Tuesday with Andrew, with staff here at the meeting. You want to give a quick update on that, Andrew? What we talked about and any insights that we gained from that?
So on Tuesday, Jeff, Josh, and I met with the post office, postmaster, the town staff, and just kind of touched back on the concept that we pivoted about a month ago and kind of redefined, I think, our design agenda. It seemed like the police station program had kind of hijacked the design process a little bit. And so we made the choice to focus more on what was most important first and foremost, which is the town offices, and kind of pivoting to taking up the entire ground level of this building for those services, and then letting that space then define how we kind of prioritize the second floor. And the second floor is still very much kind of going to be a little bit of a juggling process as we kind of try to decide how much the police station truly needs, how far we can kind of constrain that program, and ultimately what's left over for tenant space. Right now, we're kind of allotting essentially one half of this floor to tenant space, which is enough for historical society, senior center, and then one significant space for a tenant. I think basically the discussions that we've been at are that radiate would be the no longer present in the building.
You know, we haven't fully made that decision. I think it'll be the select board's decision on who gets, you know, first dibs. You know, I think the conclusion is that we all, you know, we do have limited space.
Right.
And we're gonna pretty much fill it, you know.
Right, and we're not planning on an addition for anything.
And we're not planning on doing an addition for anything. The other conclusion that I had, we had a really good conversation with the postmaster. She lives in town, she grew up in town, and she's permanent. Like, hooray, we haven't had permanent, Aaron, I can't forget her last name.
Yeah.
Which we haven't had a permanent postmaster in quite some time.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy about that. She's happy about her space. She had some suggestions for improvements. None of the improvements that we talked about are significant, you know, as far as construction costs go. But I explained that we want to keep them happy, you know, keep them as tenants. We want to keep them happy. We also talked about using a little bit of their space for mechanicals. She didn't have a problem with that. And the trade-off could be, you know, like a better bathroom, you know, things like that. I thought that was successful.
Good.
She requested, so this is a new program that we've kind of been asked. So she requested a new lobby that's larger to provide better security for some of their sale items that are currently outside of their physical space. Prevents people from
Taking them.
and then or conversely, if
Borrowing the greeting card.
Yeah.
or conversely, if it's secured, people can't access the post office boxes.
Yeah.
So
It'd be
essentially
better
the
to-
layout will change. She acknowledged that their square footage is plenty to work with. At the corner where we've been showing the mechanical space can easily go away, it seemed like, and presumably we'll be able to update some of her plumbing.
And none of it was, you know, huge. They're relatively minor.
We're
on the
we're
scale
already
of
gonna be
the-
doing things in the building and probably doing bathrooms, so one more bathroom and some walls don't.
So outside the post office, from what I just heard you say, Andrew, it sounds like there's no substantive changes from the last time you guys presented. Okay.
For the floor plan, no. As far as the discussion with the town admin,
And maybe a
Seemed like
conversation
everything
with the
was-
zoning administrator.
Yep,
that
yeah, we started talking with the zoning administrator a little
Okay.
bit more in depth about
Site.
what he's, presenting him, and that's what we're gonna be focused on first. I think it's Cynthia and Jeff. And just kind of reviewing the updated site plan based on, because they haven't had an opportunity to present a site plan without an addition at this point.
Right.
So. And then we do have some other items after that that we'll circle back to, I think, for programming.
Okay. So moving on, I think that the way that I'd like to think about this, of the agenda is, this is kind of a draft run through of what we're going to present to the select board. It might be a little bit longer here than we do the select board, but think about what, what you think we might be wanting to represent the select board and what questions we might want to ask them to answer.
Mm.
We can answer their questions, but what do we want to ask them?
And is there a specific ask of the select board at that meeting?
I think there will be, so we talked about if we have to choose tenants, what tenants might we choose? What would they choose? I
Mhm.
think, I don't know, I think it's probably fair to say that we have, our recommendation would be MMCTV. But, we recognize it's not our decision to make. The other big decision that we have made relatively recently is to downsize the police department, piece of this building and not providing for a sally port,
Right.
which reduces the construction costs significantly. We can still improve the police base a lot. But we need to get their direction. Is this okay? If this is the direction we're going, we need them to direct us.
So given the next major milestone of getting this on the ballot, is that something that the select board, from a process perspective, does the select board have to vote to put that on the ballot?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So this is
So-
a first step.
Free to that.
This is considerably before. We don't have a dollar amount. And we can't have a dollar amount until we land on.
Know what we're building, know what we're proposing to build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So, part of this is, is this scope that we have come up with, this committee, is this the appropriate scope that the select board buys into? Which would allow us to take the next steps to do engineering and cost estimating. The interior walls, as far as it's not going to matter a whole lot as far as construction costs go. Whether the office is this big or this big, here or there, it's not going to matter a
The
whole
big
lot.
thing, yes.
But the fact that we're not doing an addition, the only addition we're talking about is
The stairwell, right?
it's the egress stairwell, the enclosed
Closing
stairwell,
the-
which
Yeah.
was an issue for the zoning administrator, because that is in floodplain and we have to make that up somewhere on site. But since we're doing so much site work, that should not be a problem, and he acknowledged that. I think it's fair to say, don't you think that?
So and that's gonna be a component of what we discussed when we look at the site plan a little bit,
Yeah.
is acknowledging that as we proceed, we're gonna be. Currently, the town hall parcel is not in compliance. It's as a total of 65% of impervious development, and your maximum is 40%. We don't have to reduce it to 40, but we aren't allowed to continue to add to that. But he did acknowledge that if we swap it, that he can work with that, probably.
Right.
You just have to present that to him.
He did say, and it's something to consider, if we take out impervious surfaces
Hmm.
to account for that, once they're gone, they're gone.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't, 20 years down the road, according to our current zone, you wouldn't be able to turn that back into a parking lot,
Right, and certainly, once you've gone from 64% to 62%, you're not ever going back to 64%.
That's right.
Yeah, that's more.
The
that's
next
more what he
one
was getting at.
is gonna be 62% or less.
Mhm.
right?
So Jeff, this might be semantics, But you were mentioning before about, having downsized the police station. But in reality, you're only downsizing it from some theoretical.
Right.
Right.
They have more
What
space.
we're proposing is, we can do the calculation, but I believe it's more than doubling the
Yeah.
size of the police station. Now, yes, it's smaller, and there's no Sally Port,
Right.
now. So again, it's how you want to present this. It's the exact same
I think it has to be.
proposed police department, but it's a significant improvement over what's.
I was thinking this, and then what that triggered for me is the question of what the select board has seen and is anticipating. Do we have,
The select board has not.
other than the fact that you
seen-
are on the select board, of
The
course?
select board has not seen anything. They have
Okay.
had verbal updates from me.
And
Okay.
didn't they get those first 4 designs with the?
Did we do that?
with
I don't recall.
Had an initial meeting with them where we summarized the basic.
the- And they
program
saw
that we have.
some designs with the bigger police station.
I don't know if we went through those floor plans or not. I don't recall.
I don't know.
We presented a concept that showed some of the baseline additions for the sake of being able to do square foot order of magnitude costs.
Okay.
Comparisons between new
And they
construction.
probably don't remember them anyway.
That, the whole, all those
was a while.
graphics that we
No, it
presented.
was a
were
while
more-
ago.
People don't forget costs.
No, but I mean, the pictures, they don't have the pictures, so they aren't.
I don't think
be
so. So
looking
this,
at the
this will be a significant meeting. This will give them something to chew on. It's time for us
pictures.
to be talking with them, but we really didn't have a significant thing to talk with them about until now,
I do think it's an important distinction around whether or not we are now removing what the addition we were going to build initially versus, hey, we're doubling the police. That's a very different conversation,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yes,
Yeah.
these are the improvements we're looking to make, which do not include an addition and,
Yeah.
versus, yeah, we've backed off on the addition. And those are two different conversations. And I think
Maybe
it's-
both have to be a part of it. That
maybe,
we were looking at a bigger, I don't know. What do you think?
well, what I'd like to do is at the beginning, spend 5 minutes kind of summarizing how we got to this point.
yeah,
And there have been really some significant steps, new versus old and floodplain, I think, in fact, we probably don't have time to talk about it tonight entirely, but I would appreciate it if anybody has any thoughts on what should be included in that 5-minute summary. I thought, we set priorities for tenants early on, and we're there. This is exactly where we started. We had a significant visioning
Yep.
component with a lot of public input, that new versus rehab.
Mhm.
We determined that we can deal with this building, even though it's in the floodplain, if we acknowledge that the basement cannot be occupied. That's a significant thing.
Mhm.
The police discussion took a lot of our effort, over the
Yes.
past year. And
Mhm.
And our conclusion was, it's better to stay within the footprint of this building, give them more of what they have,
Nicer
than they have
space.
now, make a much nicer space. And we're already contracting out for other police services. It's not our committee's
And it's also
charge
not,
to fix
yeah.
the police.
It's not space that couldn't be used. It's office space
Right.
primarily,
For
except for
somebody
the
else.
locker room and maybe the armory. The rest of it is space that could be, if we didn't have a police.
It will be
Department
office
and
space.
Even
yes.
the armory in the
It's-
closet, so.
It's, yeah, it's office space that could be used for something else.
And the only other significant thing that I think that we've done is we've applied for several grants.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them really significant, and we're in the running for another one, as an area, maybe.
Surprise.
Maybe. And we've hired a grant writer. So, I was thinking of running through it pretty much that quickly,
Mhm.
because that's
Yeah.
not the juice of the meeting.
Yeah, no, we want to leave as much time for,
But this
Yeah,
committee
so-
has been meeting for 4 years.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot of work to get to where we are right now.
Yeah.
And I think we've been respectful and with the select board, and the select board has always had a member on this committee, so they're not totally in the dark. And I think a lot of other community members have been keeping track.
Mm.
And so the big police station in between the two buildings. There are a lot of people who knew about that and were not exactly
Well,
happy
those
about it.
plans were online for a while, so.
Yeah, so they were, so they did know about that. So that's how, we are backing off from that.
Maybe we can condense that all by just saying we were shown a lot of different options and we discussed the pros and cons of many options. And now we're at this, and maybe we could, while we have the architects now, we can
Yeah,
see what we're going to talk about with them and what
Yeah,
the
yeah.
design
Yeah,
is.
I mean, I think you're right, Amy, that you want to get there and then have us focus
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
one thing the one proposal
Yeah.
that we've settled
Right.
on,
Yes.
regardless of how many other
Yeah.
things.
Right.
right.
You can- When people ask questions, yes, we did look at that,
Yep.
but again, that's so that we can be
Right. Yeah,
most well-informed now.
you aren't gonna have a lot of time.
Yep.
No, we're
It's gonna
not.
go very
I
fast.
was impressed that Jeff thought he could do this in 5 minutes.
I did skip over one item on the agenda, at the beginning of the agenda, which we always have, and I apologize for that. And it's public comment. Karen, I think you're the public tonight. Did you?
And,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And Angelique. So did you want to say anything, Angelique, at the beginning of our meeting?
I'm not sure, we're on the agenda we're Radiate versus MNC TV. It sounds
I
like a
think
wrestling
as
match.
part of this conversation, you'll see where the conceptually where you fit, which is essentially where you are. And where you fit in this process as we go along. Karen, did you have anything that you wanted to add at this time?
I'm just out on the deck listening in, thanks.
Can we have our meeting on your deck at next time? Okay, so
Okay.
I think
So,
it's your show.
Why don't we start with the site plan?
Okay.
yeah.
Cynthia and Jeff. Done a lot of
That's
work, have some good graphics.
Mhm.
We can go over their stuff and then we can kind of fine tune and hone in on the more specific stuff, especially related to select board presentation. So I will share.
Look at that.
Oh, trees.
Every time we hire Wagner Hodgson, we end up with a lot of trees.
I like trees.
Then we can talk about the sustainability.
Yeah, sustainability initiative. There you go, trees.
I'll make them ash tree.
Yes. No.
Cynthia, do you want to kind of go over the plan or?
Because I'm in the room. You want to tell me if I get something wrong? Should we do
Sure.
it that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually do it the other way around.
We trade off. Yeah. So, good news on the idea that once you surrender, kind of grandfathered impervious surface, you can't get it back. We've managed to break even. How's
Yeah.
that?
Okay.
So to the extent that it is possible to calculate from a conceptual drawing, we are showing your lot coverage remaining, but your parking lot essentially optimized. So there's a lot of paved space out there that is not as efficient as it could be, shall we say. And there are practically no internal tree plantings. So we do know, as part of sustainability and just sort of livability, that if we can get some trees into the center of the sea of asphalt,
Mhm.
we'll do much better.
Mhm.
So we have managed to do that and retain the same number of spaces.
Okay.
So we have not gotten more, but we have again broken even. That was it's been the theme.
Okay.
So part of the way to do that, you see on the top of the page, we have pushed a sort of a bay of parking as close to the property line as we think is feasible. To do that, you will need a little bit of retaining wall. But that will allow us to sort of grade that, that hump that goes up to the farm field and get just as much space out of it as possible. An additional side benefit of that I sort of wish Kevin Warden were here to talk about, is that by doing that, we create some compensatory flood storage for you if that becomes an issue.
Mhm.
So at least conceptually, that all seems to make some good sense.
Yeah.
The stormwater treatment area that we're showing in the upper right is roughly where stormwater is sort of happening now, but the idea is that we could optimize it, to actually catch what it needs to catch and infiltrate it sort of correctly, start again with engineered soils.
Okay, yeah.
And that the size of that is another sort of engineering detail, but we think it should basically fit within that corner the way it does now.
Mhm.
And then the fun stuff, we were thinking rather than a, police department building between the town hall and the library, how about a nice lawn? How about an event lawn, right? So we're thinking that this could serve as, an event space for the library and the town in general. It could include, covered, something that we're calling the story pavilion, but maybe a simple timber structure with a roof.
Yay,
That would
we've
allow
been
you a little
planning to
flexibility.
do that for the library anyway, for story time outside, even when it's raining.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That doesn't count as impervious space, surface?
that's a great question, Jeff. It's possible that we did count that.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, my colleague Ella actually helped us do the calculations, and she's both real good and real quick at this, but I would
Mhm.
trust her calculations unquestionably. So we can double check that, but presumably that roof cover is counted.
Be a dirt floor.
It
Grass?
could be something like
Grass.
wood chip,
Wood chips,
probably wouldn't want to be grass because it would, part of it would shade and not grow very well, but yeah, you'd have some options, stone dust, wood chips,
So
something
it's-
that,
It's not impervious,
yeah.
though it has a roof over it, water could flow into there, so we can always, whatever.
Yeah.
It certainly is finding the gray area.
Yeah.
Impervious,
Yes.
impervious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Generally, I think we find that the authorities fall on the side of impervious more often than not. Just to make sure that we're treating the right amount of
Mhm.
space of water.
So again, we can check that calculation, but let's assume that we've
Yeah.
Yeah.
covered it.
yeah.
We are proposing, that we try to keep the existing, mature honey locusts along the road to the extent possible, but we think it would be a good idea to regrade that lawn. In creating a lawn, you have more flexibility with how we grade it,
The
right?
lawn in
So,
front of the town
Yeah,
center,
there's some drainage issues.
it's already got problems.
yes, but this new proposed lawn between town hall and the library, if we establish a little bit of a slope on it, that can help us with the next maneuver that we're very attached to, that we hope we're allowed to propose here, which is to make more of a sort of truly accessible and like rational entrance to the library.
Yes, we like it. The
Yeah.
library staff is
Mhm.
very in favor of that. Thank
Yes.
you.
So,
They looked at the plan, the original plans
Yeah.
had that back and forth, the ramp that. Yes.
Yeah, so this, we do still have, an ADA accessible ramp, but, new and improved and it's not kind of impediment to day-to-day access and not
Right.
before.
I also like the walk between the buildings being a walk,
Yes,
a crosswalk.
Yep.
Not that there's an actual crosswalk and not just wander
Yep.
across the parking lot.
yeah, and, we're suggesting it could even be a speed table, it could be that
Yeah.
cue that drivers, pretty much have to stop to avoid ripping the undercarriage of the car out.
That would be great.
Yes, so.
The town loves speed tables, I have to tell you. A lot of talk.
I bet the plow drivers do too.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, sometimes they're a tough sell, but if the choice is the safety of your children.
It won't be a
Yeah.
tough sell.
Well, and it's not just the children, it's the older
everyone,
folks
yeah.
that use both buildings and.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see, other key features here. Those are sort of the big ones. We've kept that walk from the base of the stairs and the base of the library ramp to that crosswalk at 5%. So that's all ADA accessible with no railing.
And you got rid of the handicap. Having to pull out into Bridge Street to come
Yes.
out of the handicap spaces.
Yes, we
Yay.
did. Yes, we did. And we think, by including them in the lot, we can be a little more sure that they're actually at the correct grade, which
Yeah.
we're not entirely sure about.
I hate to bring
Yeah.
this up, but, so we are, or soon to be, in design for a sidewalk. Right, that goes in front of the building on that side of the street.
Yeah,
Does that add to our impervious?
that dash line. So it would. That is one of those cases where, yeah, choices will have to be made. The thing that we were the most worried about with adding that sidewalk, are those two beautiful trees out front.
That's-
Yeah,
That's part of their charge is to try to figure out what to do with the trees.
yeah.
It's not just trees there, the trees in front of the cemetery as well.
Yes. Yeah.
If the sidewalk's not on the property
Sure.
right away,
Go
then,
on, right.
then it wouldn't count.
I mean, it'll be
Yeah, I was
determined.
gonna say, you could switch, we, on the library side, we didn't want to impact those two trees. But on the town hall side, it could switch and be outside of the property line.
Mhm.
That's not,
Uh-huh.
you know.
So that's not a decision that needs to be made now, but you should be aware as you go through this process that there'll be some overlap with the design.
And then there will be, and this is a good time to kind of say that we're looking to put together a plan in the next several months that identifies the scope of what we want to accomplish and to get you a reasonable and predictable budget for that, but it won't have every single detail done. I mean, right off the sidewalk that's on from the front walk that goes up to the main stairs of the building, that goes around to the new stairwell. Now, that's a fire exit. So that's not a really high use sidewalk, but you really should have a walk there.
Mhm.
Those could potentially be pervious
Mhm.
pavers.
Yep.
Now it's not impervious area and you just swap that sidewalk for the stuff in front of
Mhm.
the, along the road where you want people walking. And you really don't want people walking on that other sidewalk.
Mhm.
So again, lots of options as we get deeper and deeper and we
Okay.
peel the layers of the onion off. of it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
The other thing we determined is whether or not with the zoning administrator, when we met with them this past earlier this week, is, I'm thinking whether or not we need a permit, from the DRB. It would be good at some point to present to the DRB so they know the concept. But most of this is, the building, but the site plan would be important to them. And they're another important committee in town. The more people we can get, these ideas in front of, the better, really. And I think that seems very attractive to me. This will help sell
Yeah.
this project.
Yeah, I'm not totally familiar with the process in Richmond. Whether there's a kind of a pre-application or I'm not sure what else you meant, a sketch plan review of the project, so we could do that. Well, we could do that with a plan right here.
Mhm.
And we talked about that, Andrew and I talked about that with the zoning administrator. I think once we get buy-in from the select board on Monday night, we'll start throwing some of this stuff in the schedule, because it'll take a while to get on the DRB schedule.
I mean, typically, we wouldn't go in front of the DRB at this phase of a project. Just because it's kind of getting into a lot of permitting work that's not really scoped in our original fee proposal. But if we're gonna take the plan that we have right here and
Yes.
have an opportunity
Just
to
the
put it in front of the DRB to get their initial reactions and find out if there's any showstoppers, then that's a fine.
I'm thinking more along those lines. We did talk with the zoning administrator. He was advising us, you ought to do all the permitting now up front. And, personally, I'm reluctant to do that until we have a positive bond vote.
I can get you a proposal for that. if you want.
Well, no, I'd rather not. So I'd rather not spend the
We
money.
have a lot to do before we want to start with
But,
that.
this
Yeah,
level,
yeah.
this level of presentation, similar presentation to the select board. Not a full-blown hearing, but letting them know what's coming. It's important because they're an important constituency in town.
What does that say behind the library? There's it looks like a dotted oval.
Yeah, so that's a future library expansion. That's just a room over here. You know
Well,
more about it
I
than we
think
do.
one of the plans had parking all behind there.
Yeah.
And there is in some future, the library might not be a big enough building. We may need to expand it, and so that, yeah. And
So, again, you can just see, this is one of the advantages of not putting new space onto the site.
Right.
The boundaries of the site are fixed.
right,
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah,
put a
that was the
building
one.
on, then,
You ignore everything.
Yeah.
right, then you
But
then you
that
have to
was the
push
one.
the pavement or
Yeah.
something somewhere else, and you lose green space. And in this particular instance, we kept the green space between the buildings, but we we
Yeah.
consumed it behind the library, and we recognize that there's some landscaping back there.
There's an important apple tree back there,
Yeah.
actually. It's a memorial
Yeah.
tree that's important to say.
It's a little further towards the back.
It is. It is.
It is, but yeah.
That
I mean, I
run into
would say this
smaller
would
additional
be
ones.
difficult to fly because we just are doing strategic planning
Mm-hmm.
and many people have commented that the library needs more space. So for various and random ideas, so it's.
Yeah,
in the
That's
future.
their library
It's not
committee.
gonna be while I'm the chair of the trustees, believe me.
You're only gonna do this
It's
once,
not gonna
huh?
be while Rebecca is the librarian either,
Hey, this is great.
yeah.
And Cynthia, the library still has some lot coverage available, right?
I think it does.
It's got a little
Yeah, I
bit.
think it was at 27%.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we didn't want to take that as part of this project, so we were happy that we could kind of balance, where we're at with the town hall parcel and save the lot coverage, for the library for the future.
yeah.
So, what I like is that this gives a good conceptual, this is
Right, yeah.
very different than what we have now and
Yeah.
attractive. I think there'll be tweaks to it. I think it's important for folks to understand that these are actually two different lots. It's not
Yes,
one
they
lot.
are.
The town owns both of them, but they're two different lots. And,
Yeah.
I don't know, the lot line is over closer to the library, as I recall.
It's right on the plan here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of at an angle. Yeah.
It is.
Right
I mean,
there.
you could,
And,
you
yeah.
could color it if it would
That's
help.
kind of it.
legibility.
Regardless, I mean, it functions as one parcel and it's a town parcel and this,
Mhm.
this meets most of our needs, I think.
Mhm.
How do people feel about this?
I like.
I like it a lot.
I like it a
as
lot.
well. Okay. And the other thing that you should be aware of is love all the trees. There'll be opinions about what kinds of trees.
Oh, yes.
And there'll likely be
Yeah, are you-
likely discussions about that.
Yes,
Yeah.
the library would like to get rid of the two maple trees,
Uh-huh.
but we were told we could not.
Okay. Duly noted.
And even though the roots are underpinning the
Who told you that?
stairway,
Who told you
the
that?
tree warden.
Okay, so, interesting. So it'll be a lively discussion. you
Yeah,
know?
yes,
And then we can deal with later after.
yeah.
after the bond
that's,
vote.
you
Yeah.
know, Yeah,
We did have to get rid of the one tree right by the library entrance, and I think that might be the one you're talking about.
right now the roots are underneath the stairway that goes up.
Yay.
And it
Yeah.
also shades the side of the building so that it never dries.
Yep.
Because it's so big, it never, that side of the building never dries out.
Yeah,
There is
we,
an apple tree over there that's kind of messy too. So I don't, know,
Apples in the front and that could go. It's,
so,
No,
It just
you're not
makes
the
a
tree
mess.
warden.
Right.
I know, it
And I
just
know-
makes a mess.
I noticed you got rid of the hedge too, which I like that
Yay.
myself
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So good.
Yay.
So, are there any other questions on this?
It's good.
Okay, so should we, run through,
Species of grass are we using?
Yeah. Thanks, Jake.
Jeff, Cynthia brought some
Paper
copies. Would you guys like?
Oh,
Sure,
yeah, could I have a copy? Yeah.
sure.
Or just
That'd be great.
pass them around here.
And if we could-
Divide them up.
If we could
I
bring them,
actually- I've got the. Anybody?
No, I don't think the poster size.
You want that, Jeff?
Bring that to the select-board. Poster size.
I
No, it's
Hang on
only
the wall.
me that likes. the
Electronic.
I like it.
Yes,
I like that
that's-
name, even if it's not covered, it's a place, you know, to meet.
Story time.
Okay,
okay, so can we run through the floor plan?
Okay,
Andrew, is that possible?
And, I think the preface for this is that, this is still conceptual. But what we've been able to do is we've been able to get pretty much all of the existing uses of the building.
Yep.
With the possible exception of one tenant.
Yeah.
And this is the part to pay attention to.
we always knew there was gonna be a
It's
tenant.
probably gonna be a
issue.
push and shove of
Yeah.
some sort.
We knew. Basically
This
the
is
one
what
that we.
was
That's-
voted on and approved by you guys.
Mhm.
in the-
Okay, so do you want to orient us, Andrew, as to
So
what this is?
right plan is the ground level, or the half story up of the historic building. So the yellow is the post office at green. And then, the half story up in the historic building is the green and purple. So this is the and then the plan on the left is the upper floor that we're on right now. And this is exactly what we were kind of recapping at the beginning of the meeting. This is the concept that the entire town offices get the entire lower level of the historic building. The meeting room that we're in right now moves downstairs to where the zoning administrator is. The zoning administrator goes into the corner where Josh's office is with Connie. And the zoning and town clerk space, which tend to operate closely together, especially with the vault, are all on that same side of the building. And then the remainder of the space is left for Josh's office and his assistant Duncan and Connie's office. And then there's some extra storage space. There's some things that we discussed earlier this week that aren't shown here in terms of just refining kind of ideal layouts of offices and where some extra storage should go. And but essentially the entire town office space gets all of the lower level of this building. And then
And I'll just step in for a moment. Then the purple square at the bottom where planning and zoning is now becomes essentially a meeting room. It's certainly big enough to.
It was our
handle
meeting.
these Meetings.
It was a select board meeting,
Exactly. So,
a little bit bigger than this.
I guess actually while we're still focusing on that plan, then the corner of the post office, as we discussed, is kind of reserved for the new mechanical room. And then there is where the existing fire escape is really not an acceptable second means of egress, is where we're proposing our new second stairwell.
Right.
Which we saw how the path is being proposed to kind of wrap over to that portion of the building. And then the second floor, currently we're showing the the police station stays on the same side of the building, just moves up a floor. And currently, as John said, this is a little bit of semantics. Jeff says we're reducing the square footage allotted to them, but we're actually doubling.
Right,
If you want to look at it in terms of what they currently have versus where we were a month ago.
right.
This is more space than they have currently. We're conceptually giving them space for a sergeant's office, a chief's office, a receptionist, airlock vestibule for security, a patrol room, office, a small storage space for their armory, and then a small little locker room with a single user restroom and space for a shower so that an officer can clean up if they have an encounter with something that's hazardous.
And is the armory also the evidence locker? Is that
So-
a double use?
I suppose they could probably have a small evidence locker within that storage room. The reality is, I don't know why evidence would ever be here if they aren't processing here. There's nothing here that serves
They have an
processing.
evidence
Oh,
locker
that.
closet now, though.
They do keep evidence here for something.
Yeah,
So how we currently, and this will, the select board is aware, but so how we currently deal with detainees is we do it elsewhere. And what we're suggesting is it's really not this committee's charge or responsibility to figure out
oh, they do that.
how the police it works, and which is, is a challenge in town right now.
Yep.
But clearly we can do that. We can-
Yeah, clearly, the evidence room would be a pretty small space
Yeah.
compared to the rest of what's
Yeah.
going on here, and
We're not
we
doing
can
story
rearrange
cars.
the walls in there. They're all
Yeah.
new walls anyway.
Yeah.
None of the walls that you see here are in that plan.
Yeah.
And
I
we are
remember,
sitting in the
yeah, I
future.
remember Ben said now they're storing evidence in a room that other people have to get into because it's also something else, and that's not really legal.
Yeah.
It's got like fuse boxes in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah,
Like
there's
it's a
fuse
can.
boxes, there's, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're not supposed to have to let other people in your evidence room.
Right.
And, you know, I think that's fair to say with the whole thing is
Yeah.
that, you know, we shouldn't get too lost in where the walls are
Yeah,
and whatnot. What this shows is that we
where people
can
are.
fit.
Yeah.
You know, we have enough
Right,
room
the
to,
functions, the functions that are included here are significantly greater than the functions that are.
for both the police and for the town offices, you know, that it will function better. And we can fit within the space and we don't need to be adding square footage to the building, which is problematic for a number of reasons. It's not just money, it's the site coverage issue is problematic, you know.
Mhm.
Maybe we could get past that, but it would be problematic. So,
Mhm.
it works much
Okay.
better.
And then on the second floor, the purple,
So the purple and so the police station stays on the north side of the
Yep.
building, just moves up a floor.
Yep.
And then the south side of the building, the purple represents common area.
mhm,
And then the orange represents tenant space. So
Okay.
as we're showing it, so this second stairwell comes up
mhm,
through essentially the exact same location that it is currently. That window opening would just get enlarged into a doorway.
mhm,
And then the Historical Society expands farther out. Currently, it's only one window bay going east-west. It moves out a whole second window bay.
mhm.
Room for custom storage. And then there's a small office for the senior center. The two restrooms stay in their existing location. We would just need to update them. And then this purple space is essentially a reduced version of the existing break room. That's more or less where it is. Actually, it's just shifted. It's about the same size. And then this break room essentially, and this is one of the things that we talked about with the town office, this break room essentially serves the entire building.
Yeah.
One thing that we kind of heard repeatedly was that it's an underutilized space. This is something, it would have a small kitchenette, sink, no stove, refrigerator. There's a small little area outside for some comfy seating, and that is a space that could be used by everyone, town office, town staff, down below, police, tenant space.
Mhm.
Similarly, this room that's shown as purple could be a small conference room. I think that, as Linda said, was the principal's, full principal's office.
It's that one over there.
It's a pretty cool
Yeah,
room.
that's a nice place.
It's a nice room.
The window's nice.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, it's pride of place in the building, certainly
Yeah.
above the front, above the front.
Yeah. But that could be used for town or tenants could use it, you know,
Yeah,
reserve it.
I mean, whether it's
whatever.
a publicly available space that somebody needs to have a meeting and they want
Yeah.
to
Yep.
use it, instead of at their house or something, I don't know.
My guess is we will use any and all available conference room space.
Yeah,
It's surprising how well used this building is.
And then the last remaining spot is 1/4 of the second floor, and that is dedicated to a tenant. Or we've labeled it as tenant or common area. It's roughly 850 to 1,000 square feet, depending on where things kind of,
mhm,
where walls land.
And the wall, on the top part of that plan is, that's where the existing wall is, the edge of the.
It's essentially the same
Presentation.
size space as
Right,
what's
it
over
is,
here.
I mean, that orange space is essentially the TV station, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I think it currently goes a little bit farther. There's a closet here that technically there's.
Right.
mhm,
We'll have to deal with things like servers and, you know,
Mm.
that kind of thing. But
That's, yeah, that'll be kind of the next process in terms of fine tuning
once
and
we know who's where, yeah.
so Angelique, this would probably be the right time for you to ask any questions you might have of this floor plan as far as your space.
Sure. What's that, where the microphones are?
It's actually right above you. So you can stay there if you like.
I'll just speak near it because the editor will appreciate it. So yeah, I had discussions with the architects, when you were going around to everybody. And that was a long time ago, and then we got busy. And then I happened to listen to the previous meetings. I said, oh boy, there's movement,
Yeah.
relating to this. And then I saw the agenda
And yeah, we work a lot with Radiate, and I'm sure we'll continue to do so regardless of where they or we are.
Right.
So yeah, we really love being here. It's worked out really well for us. And it's especially, we haven't really minded being in limbo during the pandemic because there wasn't a lot of traffic in, and it gave us a chance to kind of get our bearings, and we did a lot of new kind of work. I guess that, yeah, I'm just here to reiterate that we like being here. It's working out well for us, but I also wanted to mention that we do have some flexibility in terms of space, and I think we have some joint interests with several of the other nonprofits in the building. Like, for instance, we are stewards of years of archival footage, whether it's now in hard drives or on the cloud, but we do have some physical materials that we have in common. We've said this like for years now with the Historical Society. So it would be nice that if there were archives and there was like all this work done on this building, that there was, that's just a small part of our footprint, but it would be nice to have them in a climate controlled good space that was good for other people too. Like, that's one example. And that is something that we also have Jericho and Underhill in our area, but a good chunk of that stuff is like 4th of July parades that we've had and digitized, but we also have the original stuff that archivists like us to keep. And that's part of like Richmond's history too. So we have that hat on as well. And during the pandemic especially, and it's like really fun to be here in the room that we set up. We did kind of pivot to offering at some point during the pandemic, like 99% of our time was tech support for our 3 towns. And it's been really great, like to be involved with that and set up things, and the technology is always evolving and we're always ready for the next thing. So I was interested in, thoughts in the planning for conference rooms, because I think the importance, like, I remember the old room downstairs and it has the columns in the way, and it would be nice, just like regardless of MMCTV being in the building or not, like, we would love if that conference room was like a little more robust than it was 4 or 5 years ago and took into account all this technological improvement. And I think since there's so many like nonprofits in town, that would be nice, or presentations. There's a lot of activity in Richmond, and it would be great if that room, when it wasn't being used by the Selectboard or the Water Sewer Commission, that it had, a real something to add to the town. And us, like MMCTV, would love to be able to use it sometimes for other things. And we'd be happy to invest our expertise and maybe even some dollars into making it a multi-use room. So that's just something we've been saying for a while, but it's become like more important. So I'd like, and I think that joint spaces would be amazing to see improved in the building, and I'm excited about that. Things being more ergonomic. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of it. And just my question was about the conference rooms, and about also if the police was on the same floor as us, how that would work, because we serve I don't know, sometimes we have like kids up here and stuff. I don't know like how that would work security wise. And like, would there be like like we all talked about security a few months ago as well. Would there be like an elevator accessible to them and to us? Like, how would that work? Like, we've a lot.
It's the same one.
So it's the same elevator
No,
that everybody's using the same one, or they have their own separate? Okay.
we're talking about.
I guess
keeping-
those are my questions. I just wanted to hear, and just if anyone had questions about us and how, like, and one thing I mentioned to Jeff when I saw the previous meeting was that we do have some flexibility as well. I mean, like, we need different things. Like, sometimes we need to just be alone in a little room editing. And that's part of what we do. And then sometimes we do stuff in studio, but during the pandemic, we have had less people coming into the studio and we're more going out there. So there's some flexibility in terms of like, we don't have to be in a square space. Like, if things change and we have some separate editing space, and then have access to multi-use conference room, that's an option too. So like, we have some flexibility in what we do.
So maybe after Monday night, so Monday night, I'm looking for direction from the select board on tenants. And really the only 2 tenants that are in question right now are MMCTV and Radiate. If we get clarity on that, I think it would be important for you guys, for the architects, to work with you to get a little bit more specific about what, how that space would be, renovated. Then there might be I don't know, there may be more, some shared space out of that. Who knows? It's kind of, conference room that you'd use and that we could, the public could use. I don't know. Something, but, I think that could be a more focused conversation after
Yeah.
next week. I think the point is that there's enough space. We have enough space to accommodate, certainly to accommodate you. And certain, and it would be plenty of space for radiate too, and we'll have to take, it's not an easy, it hasn't been an easy decision for us, for this committee either. In fact, we don't want to make the decision. We want the
No.
select board to make that decision.
No,
Can I
So,
say something?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Would we give our thoughts on that discussion
Give our
Because-
thoughts on,
on radiate versus TV station?
I think we could.
Because this is personal, don't shoot the messenger, but I was doing a little research and we're always gonna have to have money coming in in rent. The post office pays $7,805.50 every month to us. And the TV station pays us $1,300 a month. Radiate pays $444 a year. And everybody, we have never, ever had a problem with the TV station folks. They're very respectful of the building, even when they have with the kids' programs and stuff, they walk. You very seldom know they're having an event up here. On the other hand, the radiate kids are not as respectful of the building. I know some people don't want to hear that. I don't know if you've been downstairs lately. I had to go with the elevator guy today. And he even commented on what it looks like down there. So I know that's just my personal idea, but if we want to consider somebody that's going to be respecting the building and taking care of business, my vote would go to the TV station.
So, I don't know if we need to make a formal recommendation on that, from this
Yeah.
committee to the select board. I think that information is useful. And Radiate is going through transitions themselves. And so, Radiate is a for-profit business. I suspect it's not a lot of profit, but it is a for-profit business. And so the three tenants that we receive rent from are the post office, the three you mentioned, the post office, Radiate and MMCTV. And so, I think that information is important for the select board to consider.
they may ask us what we think.
They might ask us what we think. I would be happy to represent that we,
Yeah.
we're punting it to the select board, but, this,
There are some concerns
Sure.
about,
So
I don't think it affects you guys a whole lot one way or the other, as long
I
as.
think in my mind, hearing that you want to have a concise meeting with the select board. And you are the only people here who have thoroughly seen 15 different options that give you all the trade-offs of this program versus this program, unless you're prepared to make a recommendation. How do you see that presentation going to the select board to get them to
Right.
provide you
Yeah,
with
that's
something
what I was
concrete?
thinking.
Is it,
That's what I'm
is it a
wondering.
matrix of every possible trade-off?
No.
And you say you have to select one,
No.
or
No, but we do absolutely have limited time at the select board.
let me just add one more question on top of that. Linda was referencing specifically Radiate versus MMCT.
Right.
How does the police station,
well, yeah.
how do you foresee, what do you want the select board to give you back in terms of the police station? Is this
Mm.
the police station footprint done? Or do you want the select board discussing and weighing in on variations of the police station?
So what I'm reluctant to do is when, in my experience, when you look at floor plans, any floor plans, you get 5 different people, they're gonna have 5 different opinions on where this wall goes and where that office goes. It's all gonna be, and that conversation is going for quite some time. and I would hope that we don't get into that level of detail with the select board. The level of decision that I'm hoping to get from the select board is we have a 4,000 square foot building, several different places on one way or the other, attached or, a standalone building on this site. We currently have about 1,000 square feet, and we're talking about doubling that to almost 2,000 square feet for space for the police station and upgrading it considerably. And those are big choices. Do they want to invest in a much bigger building?
I wouldn't even go there
No.
I
myself.
wouldn't either. I would just,
Yeah.
I would say this is our recommendation and
Right.
we're asking for the. select board.
They ask, if they say, well, we heard you had much more in the police station design at one point, then we can respond. I don't even think we want to go. That's going backwards as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
And we want to get them to move forward
Right.
and say yes, or we want to cut that police station in half and give radiate half of the floor, which they could say,
So that's,
they
Yeah.
could say
That's where it
that,
is.
you know,
That's where you're going. That's interesting. Okay.
that's,
give them the same
I
square
can
footage.
do that.
one floor up,
Essentially,
and-
the second floor is tenant space,
right.
and you're saying that the police station is
One
one of
tenant.
one of those
Oh,
uses
that's
that are up
interesting.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like the historical society
Yeah.
and.
I mean, I could see somebody proposing that.
That's a good point.
Just knowing the level of discussion about the police in
Yeah.
town.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to frame them as a tenant
No, no.
because
no.
they're a
Town
They're
They're
a
a
town
town
department.
department.
they're a town department. So if they don't go there,
You have a responsibility for them.
I mean,
right?
it technically
good.
could be green on your map,
Right,
you
because
know,
it's a
because
town.
they are a
How about
town
teal?
department. No. No. I'm just saying they're not, they are part of the
Right,
yeah.
town.
But
They just have their own
Right.
program need.
ultimately, this is the plan that this group, though, has weighed all of the factors and felt
correct.
this is an improved police station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it maintains the income and accommodation for
That's a better way to
respected
put it.
tenants.
Yeah.
Better.
I like that
I hear what you're saying, and and what we're looking for at the end of the day on Monday night is that, yes, this looks good,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
go off and do
Because-
good
because
work.
we know
I can see it in a little bit.
Because the
Yeah.
next steps, according to you, I mean, the next steps involve a lot of time for you guys. If we say this is it and we need to move forward toward cost estimating, that's now.
And it's
back-
also it's easy to, as you said, everyone's gonna have an opinion about this stuff,
Yeah.
but the truth is, no one on the select board other than you has seen
All
what
the
we've
stuff.
seen.
Yeah, exactly.
And this group has been charged with making recommendations here. And I think it's fair to say that we've voted that this is what we think makes sense, given all of these considerations. And we have had a pretty robust evaluation. As you said, we've been at this for 4 years.
Yeah.
All the
Right.
programming that's gone to it, looking at various iterations. And this is what we're putting in front of the select board. And I think that that's a fair thing to ask them for approval to move forward with
Right.
this concept.
What's clear to me is that we do need their buy-in at this point in
Yes.
order to hit
Yep.
November.
Karen, yeah,
Agreed.
he has a hand.
I'm sorry,
Karen?
Karen?
Sorry, I've never learned how to put the fake hand up. Um, when you talk about paying tenants, I'd like to remind you that over the decades, the Historical Society has raised, with no money from the town at all, hundreds of thousands of dollars to maintain the round church. And I think you could sometimes talk about the fact that our maintenance of the round church, not just for money, but for the volunteers that maintain it, could be considered in lieu of rent for the space that we have now. Because I think we contribute, if the town had to take over the round church, you'd have another huge addition to your budget that you don't have now.
We don't want to do that.
So
Thank
I
you,
would-
Karen.
I would like you to think about that, and then
Yeah.
I'm gonna be one of those people that says something about the floor plan. We, the Historical Society, have 20 linear feet of shelving. And I would just like someday down the road to have an opportunity to talk with the architects about the layout that might work a little better than what I see here. And a further thought I had, and I don't know the logic of it, but the break room, it seems like there's one less meeting room. Right now, we have the big one and the middle one and the one by the elevator. And they're often used in their nice spaces. And I wonder, just, you don't have to answer me, but my reaction is to take the wall out between the fire escape hallway and make that into a combination break room with a set of cupboards on one side and a meeting table that also is an eating table. So I just sometime would like to be able to talk about specific designs for the Historical Society down the road. Thank you.
Hey, that's helpful.
We look forward to that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, thank you, Karen. Okay, so that's as much, we actually don't have all of this time to do the select board president. What are we, the half hour?
I got a half hour, and just on timing, the agenda on Monday night has several large, long items on it. So I'm gonna, if I had to guess, it's like 8:45-ish, I'm sorry to say. I would
I
say,
did see your email.
yeah, just because we have committee appointments, which always take at least a half hour, 45 minutes. Then we've got a planning and zoning thing for like 10 minutes. And then V-Trans is doing a presentation on the bridge reconstruction that they need like 45 minutes for. So if all goes like right on time, it's 8:45. So I'd say be ready. And then I know we still got like an hour and a half of stuff after this. It's
bridge reconstruction?
they're gonna redo they're gonna
The down by
build
the
a new
pier.
bridge down by the fire station that goes over.
That bridge.
Straighten it out.
So they're doing a public meeting in that meeting. So
It's gonna be fun.
so yeah, it's gonna be a longer meeting, and I'm sorry, guys. It's just, like I said before, none of these meetings are ever great. But this one has two big blocks at the beginning, which are challenging. I mean, you never know. It could be 8:30 if committees fly by, but that doesn't always happen.
Okay, and
That's good.
the committee's always welcome to attend. I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I'll probably be there.
This is this.
Monday. And of course, there's Zoom. I'll send an
Gonna-
email to the committee if everybody wants it, so you can
Empty house
have the
or
Zoom.
Probably
that way.
more likely to be there on
Jeff,
Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
that-
gonna,
that-
probably, I'm gonna,
that-
I've perfected one ear with listening.
You know,
on
again,
my
it's not,
headset
you're not gonna have a
watching
lot of
what's
time,
going
so, you know,
on.
the pretty pictures,
And watching.
those two pictures,
Yeah.
that's really all you need to do and answer
Pandemic
questions.
kind of person.
You know, be available to answer questions, you know, and
We want to have Kevin available in case some floodplain questions.
I doubt that it'll be necessary.
My recommendation is not,
Yeah,
and if those questions come up, we say we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Send-
That will take us
Otherwise,
down a rabbit
Start to
hole.
try to answer all those questions. We're gonna go over the half hour really fast.
Yeah.
so, you know, I think it falls into the category of details to be worked out. What we're looking for is all overall direction to move forward.
Right.
And we really cannot move forward and at this point until we get buy-in. And, you know, we're still on target for November, I think. I hope
Keep
so,
A
moving.
lot of work. Yeah.
So,
which we may need to meet more often.
And we might have to remind somebody might, maybe you or somebody, Jeff, might need to direct people back to if we do start veering off into the weeds.
Yes, I'll try. I'll
It's
try.
nice sometimes to have a person who reminds that, you know, there are a lot of details.
Yes, I'll
This is a
try.
concept, not a detail meeting.
Right.
I'll definitely try because
Yeah.
sometimes our meetings and this one will go, we have a lot of things to talk about.
I've had
I'm looking forward to it too.
Yes, I am really looking for it.
Do you want to send me any of these for the packet in advance? Like,
I can send you
if you send me the two,
his
Yeah,
file and just.
That would be
read
helpful.
that
our-
would be really good.
yeah, if I just have those two PDFs, I'll put it in the packet tomorrow so that people can.
That's really helpful. What the select board tends to do is say, we get a long packet, but you know, we tend to read it before Monday night. And so, you know, come
Right, but if
prepared.
we only give those two sheets, it's a lot less.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those two sheets gives
They can
enough,
think. it
unless,
has
there's no
questions that
narrative
they-
you have written down right now, right?
Something
Yeah,
triggered.
Jeff gave it in verbally. here.
Yeah, I think if we just have those as designs, it'll give people, it'll pique interest.
Yeah.
Color
key.
That's a lot.
I don't know if you have a color key on any of them.
Yeah, it's
but-
on the older one. I
Okay.
kept getting lost.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Good, this is
Okay.
really good.
So at the risk of adding one more thing for the
Oh, no.
select board,
Uh-oh.
if they need to approve the scope of services
The modeling.
for the modeling.
So let's
on
talk about
Monday, so
that,
we
yeah.
don't wait another 2 weeks.
Let's talk about that while you're still here.
3 weeks. Oh, we're right,
Yeah.
because we're at a
I
weird,
printed out the first
This
thing.
Monday.
Gotta be the fifth Monday, so.
so yeah,
week
it's a
off.
3 week.
Yeah.
Yeah. For this one,
Yeah,
Okay, so,
That's
but in the
this,
mean.
right?
That's- yes. So what we've talked about is, and we've talked about it in terms of ARPA requests, the ARPA committee. Just for proposals. The ARPA committee wants to finish up its work, and
Yep.
the assumption had all along is that the town center committee would be asking for something.
Yep.
From the ARPA committee. What we've talked briefly about is, let's pick a category, rather than just say, we'll take whatever you got left over. Let's
Mhm.
pick a category, and one category that seems to fit the ARPA committee criteria, and I think our own, is, what can we invest in that will reduce operating costs? That
Right.
will improve sustainability and reduce operating costs.
Mhm.
The way to get there is to do modeling of the building, energy modeling of the building. Is that a fair characterization, you think?
Yeah, and more broadly, looking at, currently, we would be essentially approaching it as like a baseline mechanical system discussion. This concept is that in comparison to stretch code and doing net zero.
Stretch code is essentially Act 250 code, which is a higher standard, and then net zero, which is harder to define.
And this is
And
to get
essentially-
a sense of the cost difference?
Yeah, so
Okay.
cost investment, payback analysis, so that
Yeah.
we can actually look at
Mhm.
and give you multiple options.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's a ripple effect. It doesn't impact just mechanical and electrical. There's structural concerns. There is a memo coming. We don't have it right here. But there is some concern about using this roof for solar. So currently, we would be more limited to doing solar on the post office roof or over as a canopy above parking.
I was wondering if someone could explain that. I mean, it's not like
About
that.
the-
The
Structural?
structural concerns on solar, I mean, they weigh nothing. So what's the concern?
Actually, no, that's actually not.
They do a
Do.
something, and they're not huge. Again, the memo is coming, so I'm kind of being careful not to talk too many specifics that you can catch me on later, but, there have been modifications made up there in the attic already in the past, and we don't know why they were done, who did them.
What sort of modification?
Structural
They're like
modifications?
extra brackets and bracing and.
It's bizarre, and I'm not familiar with who did it. I don't know when this
The
happened.
fact is that for some
Okay.
reason, somewhere in the past, someone felt that that the roof structure there needed to be reinforced. And they've done it, and we can say that it worked
No, it
because
wasn't
the roof
correct.
hasn't collapsed. But beyond that, we don't really know. So to put additional load on that roof is really gonna mean, and then for a structural engineer to actually put their stamp on it and say, yes, it's gonna hold those solar panels, they're gonna wanna actually understand a lot better about what the problems were that those were fixing and what actually did happen, and how big the fasteners were, and
Yeah.
and they're gonna have to do a lot more work to do that, and even at that, then there's no guarantee that they're gonna be able to say that what's up there now even meets the current code or not. We're assuming that it does. But to put additional load on there is gonna put additional requirements on the structure up there. So that's why there's a big question mark right now. And I think beyond that, we need to wait on Engineering Ventures to kind of weigh in on what they've seen when they did go up there. I witnessed it. I was there with them. So,
We didn't have good flashlights or lighting. But
well, there was enough light.
there's enough light to see that, and for a commercial solar project, for the permitting, you need to do a structural analysis no matter what. Even on a house, even a structure
Yeah.
that looks like a house. I had to do one on the Heinsberg Police Station, which is essentially a house.
Okay.
So, I mean,
And again, conceptually, I'm not opposed at all to putting the solar panels on that roof, and aesthetically, I have no issue with that. I mean, if you're going for the grant that I just saw something about, we're gonna have to deal with all the historic preservation issues.
Historic preservation, I don't know how they feel about solar panels
The
on it. but-
CDS,
You can go
Well,
through,
you can get.
they'll ask
you
for
can
a
get them-
review
Yeah,
of what you're proposing.
I mean, it's an asphalt shingle roof. I don't even know if that was original. I wonder if it couldn't be
pictures,
the original roof.
pictures kind of look like it's original. It was not ever copper or
No.
tile or anything. No, I think it was
year of the building?
1907,
1907.
1905,
roof on it.
1907. And they did a new roof not that
Yeah,
long
did it.
ago.
Jeff was here, so
5 years
what,
ago.
8 years ago? When did
Yeah.
you start?
Started 4.5 years ago.
Yeah, so it was like 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
7 years.
you know, which is, you know, that
The
there
picture
should
had
be
a
at least 20 years.
picture From 1907, and I think.
So we're not
asphalt.
nixing solar panels on the main roof. We're just saying there's additional costs
Be a
to
cost
evaluate.
to Evaluate that, and that's, I don't think that cost is in the proposal. yet.
No.
The cost that's in front of you there is to do the investigation, of the post office roof, if you're gonna put them on the post office, because that one's a much more.
Oh, is that true?
Is that, all right,
James's line.
maybe I really said that.
It would take me a couple minutes to find his email.
All right, all right, well,
Can't remember if he included the historic.
So what
So
you're
my-
saying is you want the select board to approve this?
Yes,
On
so,
Monday.
yes, but you know, if we have enough time to get the information to them to do that. I mean, we can't spend any money. So my
No,
feeling
I
on,
know.
my
Yeah.
feeling on the solar stuff is, you know, if you were to talk to a solar installer, they'd be hesitant to do this because it might not feel like it was as cost effective as a typical installation. However, if we're talking about, you know, using ARPA money to bring down the cost, there's also an investment tax credit through the feds of 30% that we are able to get now as a check, as a municipality is able to get as a check.
Yeah.
And we're talking about doing a bond. So if you look at the life cycle costs, they last 25 years of the engineering life. It's very likely to me, if you put all those numbers together, that the savings is gonna far outweigh the cost, even if you have to do structural.
This proposal, though, this is not our ARPA ask. This is, we're asking the town to make an expenditure to do the study.
Just to
that we
do the
would then
study, you know,
Yeah.
and I
Okay.
would suggest it comes out of the town
Okay.
center fund.
Okay.
Right.
You know, at this point, it's part of the project. Frankly, I feel it's responsible to do
Yeah.
some engineering on the roof, even if we don't put.
I
It is-
agree 100%.
Probably.
It's a little weird up there and it would be, you know, we're gonna be doing a lot of stuff anyways. We should know whether the roof is gonna be okay. It looks okay. But it's,
My house is proposed, so looks okay too, but you can't put solar on it because they built it wrong.
yeah, so it's just, you know, I mean, I think it's prudent to do the engineering. So, Andrew, if you can, you know, make sure what we're studying for that. And it would you'd have to do the same kind of analysis of the post office roof as well. That was probably less of a problem, maybe.
structurally, that should be less of a problem and easier to rectify.
Yeah.
It's a different type of structure.
That one's a relatively new roof as
Right.
well. It's
It
leaking.
would be, I think, there would be some effort required to kind of open up some areas of the ceiling so that they could actually see what was
Yeah.
there. Whereas up here, you wouldn't have to do that.
Well,
It's all very
But
there's
visible.
a
you
nice,
could go
there's a nice
there
hole in
and
the
see.
loading dock where it's been leaking that you can look up in. There you go.
Good news is we know there isn't any asbestos there.
And do you think we'll be taking the mechanicals off the post office roof? If we have a
I-
mechanical,
We're gonna ask that question in the mechanical.
I'd like to. I hate them up there.
Yeah.
There's some real problems with snow shedding.
Yeah,
Onto that.
Off of this roof?
well, and you'd want them off there if you were gonna put solar on there anyway. So-
Oh, yeah, if you put solar on there, it's really gonna shed the snow.
Well, from up above, but,
Yeah,
anyways, I don't know if it would show, it would shed differently. We'll see. We'll get to that.
That's off my roof.
Okay, so,
so
actually,
that's on your agenda, just see if we have the information
So let me just,
for this vote.
how about, yes, I think a vote would be good. So, pending, further information from the architect. You know, can we move to request from the select board? You know, I don't know the amount.
It's 10,700.
Well, the 10.7 included the energy modeling, didn't it?
Yeah, that's
not?
energy modeling plus,
What's on?
Our
plus yours,
structural.
and plus this, the 6,000 structural.
And I can check the language on what. And like follow
I
up.
think it worked out to 14 something, right?
Well, it's
You
more
guys
than
had
that
a
'cause it's-
33% addition.
Because it's like 20, it's 20 something.
Wait, where? I'm only seeing the 10,700.
That's just on that one, and then on your email, right?
Yeah, I
Pearson.
didn't see anything else.
Why was Pearson, why is it Pearson doing it, but it came on Du Bois and King letterhead?
They're the same.
Pearson was a separate engineering firm. They were bought out by Du Bois and King, but they still have a lot of client.
Oh, I didn't realize they got bought
loyalty
by,
to the
okay.
name Pearson, so they're,
So they're still
Alan
using
is-
it as a plan. Okay. Thank you. I was so confused reading that. I kept like, is there something I'm missing here?
Yes.
I'm like, so Black Ritter, somebody's contracting with Du Bois and King to hire Pearson to do. No, I
They were
was-
subcontracting or something through them, but
And
So how do we put this motion together? We should have a motion.
what's the actual number?
we need a document or an actual something that we're voting on, I would think, right?
Yeah,
So, Andrew, is it a problem if this waits until our next meeting?
Well, I suppose we could have,
Well, maybe we do
we can
half.
still roll ahead with just the baseline mechanical electrical review.
Yeah,
But they're not gonna do anything for another 3 weeks
Right.
if they're, you know,
how about if how about if we separate these two issues? So the structural thing is, a kind of a different issue. So there's the energy modeling, which is the 14,000, I think. It's the 10,000 plus your fees. Right? So,
so it's.
can you give us that number, Andrew? It's your, the total would be better,
It was in,
2,700
No.
for
plus yours.
Pearson plus 3,500, so 14,200.
And so the,
And that's including structural.
No, that's not,
Including the structural.
and the additional 33% is,
It's the Black River design, essentially coordinating that and having the meetings and.
And then working that into our schematic for
Planning
pricing
things.
and establishing scope. That's
and then the 10,700 is, are they like a subcontractor then?
Yeah.
Oh,
They're the mechanical engineer.
that you would hire under your
mechanical
main
electrical We
contract.
already have and is.
Okay.
We're telling them now.
Okay,
time for
so
them
that's
to
how
do
we
the
get
work.
around,
the proposal is in
But that's-
an email, so we do have that to
Yeah.
vote on. We can vote on that probably, right?
and then that's additional from the additional scope of work, because we're trying to do this more refined energy modeling, and that's why there's more money. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Structural piece is 6,000.
Right, but we're
No,
gonna
the
clarify
structural-
what that is.
What it
Oh,
includes.
we're not doing this,
Office or the post office and upstairs.
we're not
So-
doing the structural right now, right? We're just doing energy modeling plus 33% for 14,200.
So
Yes,
that's what I heard.
okay.
and that's just energy.
Here's EV's some bullet points for indicate probe locations to expose existing structure, measure and document existing roof joist, deck, and beams that are visible from probes. That's specifically the post office analysis of roof to determine existing capacities. That would be the question of whether he's referring to still just the post office or the historic building as well, and then provide memo report indicating capacity and if reserve capacity exists for potential future solar. If reinforcement is required, brief narrative description of reinforcement options. My assumption is that includes the historic building, but I can clarify that with him tomorrow.
Okay, and it would be good to be, on a letterhead.
Okay, and ours as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, any fees that you may need to add to that. If you do, I don't know.
I think ours would presume it's the coordination of mechanical and electrical and structural, so I think ours would.
So,
be the same.
you figure that out. So let's just do the energy modeling piece. That's
Yeah.
14,200.
I'm not as optimistic as Andrew that includes this. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
so,
so how about, a motion, to recommend to the select board, to use $14,200 from the town center fund, to pay for, I think it would be fair to call it advanced energy modeling, of the building to determine the advanced energy modeling. I think. that's-
yeah, let's not get into
They determine viability of net zero.
Yeah.
So,
energy
I think the
modeling
end goal
to
is net zero.
determine
Cost effectiveness.
I mean,
Cost. We don't even have to.
it's not an Act 250 product. We don't need it for, do you need it for, we're gonna need a
There's no
public. building
existing Act 250 permit on
No.
the site.
No,
No,
and it's not,
Certainly, it's a
public, you
municipal
don't need it
project
for-
that involves less than 10
to
acres.
determine the cost of effectiveness of various energy choices.
Yeah.
How's that?
okay.
Okay.
So
So
who moves this?
I will move to recommend to the select board that we use $14,200 from the town center fund for to pay for advanced energy modeling of the building to determine cost effectiveness of various energy choices, performance choices. Thank you. How's that?
Okay,
Second.
Second, okay, Jake seconds it. Hey, is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, please state your name and your vote.
Linda, I.
Lori, I.
Amy, I,
Jake, I.
And Jeff, aye. And are you on this? committee?
David's,
Yeah.
Josh is on it.
Dave's here.
David's on.
He comes to all the
Dave's-
meetings.
We got Dave here too.
too.
Dave Healy, aye.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Okay, what's our next? So I think we're done with you guys, right?
Feel like it, yeah.
Yeah,
It's dinner time.
thank you for all your work, though.
Yeah.
No, it's
I
just
think
great.
to See like a real
I
thing.
appreciate you guys, you make progress every meeting, that's a refreshing.
That was the goal, actually. And you know, it's funny that this committee, you know, I've been on it for 4 years and, you know, ordinarily that would be like
It-
way too long.
It doesn't feel a day more than 3.5.
But it's been steady progress the whole time. It feels like almost every meeting we make steady progress and
And we've been, as Karen and Angelique, and you guys have been with us for the long haul too.
wow.
So I think I'm good. I just have a question. I want to make sure I got the wording of the agenda items right. So for the town center library building committee, is that? an
Thank you all.
update? Are we looking for a
Bye,
specific
guys.
Jeff.
action
Thank
item
you.
on that? Or is that more of a general consensus?
No, that's an action item. We're asking for money.
No. For the review, sorry, I'm back on point.
We're not asking for anything specific.
For the review of the plan,
Yeah.
are we looking for like? Or that specific action would come when they go to the bond vote. This one is more of an update, review, sort of, so update from the town center library building committee is fine for that agenda item.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And you know, it's kind of like, are there showstoppers here?
Yeah, okay. And then the next one is
Can we
consideration,
move forward to the next step?
and then the next one's consideration of approval of the use of town center funds to pay for energy modeling for the town center renovation project.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, just want to make sure I got that the way everybody wants it.
Yeah, I think the rest of our agenda is fairly quick. Update on the funders conference. You
Well,
have,
the last I knew, you had invited Ben to a meeting and then I don't know if you.
I thought he invited us to a meeting. So I think
I
it was,
haven't seen any more.
I haven't seen it anymore either. I think he was talking about in June.
I don't know. I didn't get anything back from him. The
Okay.
last I saw was you reaching out and saying, let's have coffee, let's talk and have coffee at Sweet Simone.
And he never got back.
Okay,
So,
So-
shall I do that again?
well, do
I've
you
been,
want,
it has been a,
do you want
it's a
me
very
to-
busy
I
time.
can reach out to him and say,
Okay.
Who
I
is
know
this?
Diane is interested in Ben Doyle, who's the executive director of Preservation Trust of Vermont.
Yeah.
Happens to live in Richmond.
Oh,
And
you know,
so,
Are
and
you
they,
sure of that?
well, he lives somewhere locally. It's Ben Doyle. Doyle. But anyway, he offered to convene a funders conference of all the different granting agencies, like one funders conference that we could present, in essence, what
Have her
they're
like, fight over
presenting-
giving us money.
Yeah, no.
Great.
But no, but having, they don't talk money at these, but it gives them a chance to ask questions, clarifying questions. One of my conversations with somebody from the feds is that they might not give us money because the building is on a floodplain. And that might just totally nix
It's not.
federal money, so,
Right,
but
'cause
that's,
that
but
makes
I don't
sense.
know that, and those kinds of questions would be the kind of things. But they would bring like USDA and Patrick from the Community Development Block Grant. And
ACCD
VEIC,
maybe.
ACCD, yes,
And-
all those people together, so you present your project once to them.
Hmm.
And And I think we talked about the presentation that they're gonna do to the select board might be the perfect one,
Yeah.
and we could even show the video of their presentation.
And I'm gonna request that EBT be at that.
Right,
that
and
meeting
I
as well.
think Diane wanted someone that had somebody else she wanted to include.
Yeah, I can't remember who.
Yeah, and Diane's our grant person.
Right.
Yes, she have met. Yeah.
So
that's it.
let's try to make that for, sometime in June. I think the
June,
last I heard it
yeah.
was gonna be sometime in June. And
Okay,
if you reach out and copy me, I'd be happy to do, maybe the two of us.
I've been CCing you and Diane.
Yeah.
And we could either have, meet with them in person or have a
It could be a
conference
conference
call.
call. Either
or
way,
Zoom
it's be
call
fine.
if that was easier, just to kind of
Okay.
throw around some time frames.
And we got good news on the earmark, the congressional, we're back at the same place we were with, except the last time it was 1.8 million, which I like better, but
Well, And Bernie doesn't have quite as much pull this
he doesn't
time
have
as he
quite as much.
used to have, so.
Well, and we're asking from a different pot, so
Well,
like,
this is parks and parks.
it's historic preservation, so one question I have is, if we were to get a $20,000 grant from, Preservation Trust or from the State Historic Preservation for this project, they ask for a lot of hoops
There's
to go
different,
through.
there are not as many rules from the state as there are from the Parks Department.
For $500,000, I might be willing to go through some.
They will
hoops.
make us put this building on the they will make us put this on the National Historic
And it might,
Register.
for $500,000, that might be worth it.
Because that's one of the things for the Broom Grant. We did not get the Broom Grant.
Which I'm not surprised.
And 10 million of the library money that was going to come to Vermont is in hand at the Department of Libraries, and they are going to do the grants. The applications will be open in the fall, no date yet, but fall. The 16.4 million that was coming from ARPA is not in hand. They are being told that because of the debt ceiling not being
I
made,
wondered about that.
and the fact that the Democrats might have to give back all the ARPA, they might have to
Can't give it
say
back,
you
all
can
of it.
claw back any ARPA money that has not been distributed. Might be coming back into
Are
the
you aware of that?
budget.
So
That's what
I
the
think we have
Department of
claimed it,
Libraries
so I
said.
don't think.
Yeah, I think
If
it's
you
in our,
have it
it's
in,
in our bank
if
account.
you have it in your, yeah, so the HUD money is in the library's bank.
Come and get it.
Bank account. But the other money, the ARPA money, that was 16.4 million, they have not received it. And now they're being told they may not now nor ever receive it.
Yeah, so
So,
going through Washington is always.
yeah, it's,
pleasant.
they're-
Okay, so that's,
yeah,
that's
it's what
as
it
much
is,
as we know.
but there'll be 10 million to do something with, and we'll see, we'll apply for whatever
The,
seems to qualify.
the earmark, the process for the earmark is that we ask to get on the senator's
Right.
list. We're
And
on
we're
the
on the
senator's
senator's
list now. And so the senator will be making, his, his recommendations to whichever
The
committee.
various, yeah,
Whatever committee, and then there's horse trading to do and the debt
Right.
ceiling. and-
I'll give you that if you give me this, and
And so that the federal budget, their
October, right?
fiscal year is September 30th. And that's if, and the third year they passed the budget before then. I don't remember the
They
last time we had a
kicked the
good
can
year.
down to January, I think, last
Yeah,
year.
I don't know when the last time we had a good year. So,
Yeah.
it could be a while. This would be money that would be wonderful to get, that we should plan for as far as historic preservation requirements and, not hold our breath. April 27th minutes, did people get a chance to look at those? Not what, you can abstain. Or you could trust that Lori did them. It's
Right,
privilege.
yeah.
You trust me, I will.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't move it.
Unless my abstaining. comes to the front.
Move to accept or approve the April 27th minutes.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Say your name and
Josh, I.
Lori, I.
Amy, I.
Dick abstain.
Jeff, I. David, did you get a chance to read the minutes?
I did, yeah, thank you, and I.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else we need to discuss tonight? Okay.
Nope.
And what do you think should be on our agenda for next meeting?
I think might depend on what happens.
We're either gonna celebrate what they
I mean,
said.
we will
Crying
still
and-
have probably the answer from them about the other.
So
The
that would be
engineering
two things.
study.
So a recap of the select board meeting. I'll talk with the architects and see if they, once that's done, they have the next steps. We should probably revisit the calendar schedule.
Especially if they say, go forth, we bless you, go forth and do the next thing
Yeah.
at the select board, which is hopefully what they'll tell us.
Right. Right.
Because then
And then what are
there's a
what is
lot of
the-
next things.
Yeah,
And our next meeting
I was
is,
gonna say, when is our next meeting? Because 2 weeks from now is Memorial Day.
Oh,
June
June.
1st. That's the Thursday before the next select board meeting.
Okay, so June 1st.
June 1st. Okay, yeah.
June 1st. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so the next steps, I
Okay.
think they talked about actually diving into cost estimating and,
There'll be, I'd like to dig
There's
into
lots
the
of
mechanicals
steps.
myself.
yeah.
I'm
so
curious
they've
about,
got,
you know,
most, the
Right.
next steps, a lot of them are up to on their plate, but they don't
Right.
want to do a lot of work on something that the select board is then gonna say, no.
what is the date by which the select board has to vote, to get something put on the ballot?
there's,
We looked
we
at
think
that
it
last
was,
meeting. It
yeah.
was,
2
August.
months. It needs to be
September,
2 months
August.
ahead of the vote.
November,
Early September, I think.
October, September,
September, 2 months,
September.
yeah.
so
Yeah.
probably early, no later than mid-September. So,
Right.
Yeah.
we'll be meeting through the summer.
I mean, if we were gonna just hold the vote, a special vote, it's a special vote because there's nothing in.
It'll be
the government.
special anyway. Yeah, there's nothing
So
else.
we can decide the date, and if you want to do it the second Tuesday, because people always
September,
vote on the
whatever.
second
Yeah.
Tuesday of
They do.
November. You don't want to get into Christmas time.
People also vote early, I bet, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen a lot more early voting in the last couple of
Because it was,
years.
yeah, it's gonna be
One item.
one item, you
Go up
know,
and
that's
vote.
the only thing. Everybody that wants the ballot, let me know and we mail it to them.
Well, I think
send it
our
back.
schedule would be really good to talk
Well,
about.
early
next
to
time, 'cause
mid-September,
we're gonna-
yeah, schedule.
We're gonna want to do like, the DRB, I'm gonna consider a public hearing.
And we
I
want
can't
it,
believe how many people go to the DRB hearings these days. Holy
Yeah.
cow. There must have been 30 people here last.
Well, last night was a special meeting.
Is what?
You had both Buttermilk and
Yeah.
Hillview
Yeah.
on one meeting.
oh, yeah.
So there was lots of
Lots of
interest.
people.
I don't think that happens every DRB meeting, but those two projects in particular.
Yeah. they
They're gonna
bring
talk.
a lot of people in.
A busy week.
How sure is that sidewalk thing?
On this side of the street,
Yeah.
it's
We have a
happening.
grant to go
Yeah.
Yeah, I
from,
had a question about.
Where
that.
does it go from where to where?
Galena Court down to Esplanade on this side.
Like they have it right to the sidewalk that goes up to the
Yeah.
town center. Doesn't it go over here?
it does.
We
Okay.
need to figure out, because we'll have to coordinate, like Jeff was saying, with. Because it doesn't make sense to have a sidewalk close into the building and one out.
Right.
We're trying to-
Sidewalks probably
And they
good.
didn't.
I would think one would suffice. We're not-
It might not need to be straight, it might.
Yeah, it could come in and, we'll have to sort, and that's where, once we get to the design phase of the Bridge Street sidewalk,
Yeah.
we'll coordinate with these guys and try to figure out
What's
what.
the timeline on that?
Have we hired an engineer yet on that?
No, we haven't done an engineer yet. I want to talk to the granting agency to make sure that we did an RFQ for engineers a couple years
All
ago.
grant funded? We don't need a bond?
No, so we,
Adjourned from our meeting.
I don't know. So real quick, there's a grant for that. We have a $64,000 match, I think.
Yeah.
We
Um,
approved that.
yeah, and then,
The
and
select board
the,
approved
the
spending
grant,
that money on that.
yeah, and the grant,
That's coming out of the
actually, that has
general
been,
fund.
that has not been approved yet by the select board. That was approved last night by the ARPA committee, right? I mean, they guaranteed they would spend it,
No,
so.
I think we
I don't think they-
accepted I think we accepted the grant with the
Yeah.
match.
Did we
But
accept, anyway, we're gonna put $64,000 towards that from ARPA, and then we need to talk to the agency, because we did an RFQ process a couple years ago for engineering, so I just want to make sure, like, we just pick one of these engineers, is that gonna be good with your procurement policy?
Yeah.
And then we'll pick an engineer.
So 2024, 2025?
24.
I think we might be able to construct next summer if things get going.
I think construction scheduling It's gonna be a whole nother ball of wax.
I'm just thinking about how it coordinates with the building
Mhm.
construction and
It
you know,
has to
you're gonna have to have
Yeah.
everything all, I mean, with the amount of landscaping they're doing, it's gonna be all dug up. You don't wanna be
Mhm.
digging it up and digging it up again.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, it would probably be wise to just skip it. You know, if, or postpone it to 2025 for the.
Yeah, and I might be overly optimistic by saying 24. I mean, the design could take long.
Getting your contractors, because that wouldn't be something Pete would do.
I don't think so.
That's a whole
What a
construction.
heck of a job, though.
I know, that looked good.
It looks
That
great.
looked good.
All right, so to your point, we're not adjourned yet. But maybe we should be.
I think,
We should
I
be.
move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
all those in favor, walk
We
out.
don't have to vote.
Hi.
Hi, big guy.